Good day, students. I hope you're well. Today we're going to do a bit of revision on two study units. The one is capital budgeting and the other is cost of capital. Okay, now this is a typical capital budgeting question, right? Capital budgeting wants to know basically if they give you or you have an option to invest in one project. If the project is profitable, will you reject it or will you accept it? They can give you up to 3, 4, 5 projects, which you can then compare and then say which one will you choose based on the 3 calculations that we normally ask. Okay, sorry. What you need to know before you start the question, right, is that maintenance and installation. When you buy let's just do this. When you buy a machine, right, the accounting rule for a machine to be depreciated means that it can only start being depreciated once it is ready for use. So let's say, for example, you buy a machine costing you 500,000. But before you can use this machine must be installed, and that's going to cost you 10,000. And then before you can use this machine, there must be maintenance that needs to be done on this machine before you can use it. Now remember, you can only start depreciating once you can use the machine. So the only time you'll be able to depreciate it is 1, you must have installed it, and 2, you must have done maintenance on it, meaning that you will depreciate the machine on the 520,000. So if your question might say that depreciation is on 10% of the cost, it means that you will then calculate the 10% on the 520. If the question is silent with regards to installation and maintenance, then it means you will use the 500,000 then to calculate the depreciation on. Okay, another thing you need to look out for, what does the question say with regards to rounding? If the question is silent, you normally, rule of thumb is you will round off to 2 decimals. Okay. So those are the important things. So when you read through the question, you need to look out for the maintenance and installation and depreciation. Remember, depreciation is an expense, and then you need to basically add it to your income that you are going to get, because it will be depreciated in the year. Okay, so now we're going to highlight all the important things. It says a company in Zambia is considering 2 projects, basically P and Q. These projects are mutually exclusive, which means that only one of them can be chosen. Project 2, project P, the cost is 1.6, and project Q, the cost is also 1.6, right? So remember, with cost, when it comes to cost, what is it that we need to go and look for? We need to go and look, is there any installation or maintenance or both, right? So now the question is saying, so far the question is saying nothing about installation and maintenance, meaning that our initial investment will be the 1.6. Now here they also gave you a clue. Remember, cost plus maintenance plus installation gives you your initial investment. Initial investment means everything inclusive, right? So yeah, they told you it's initial investment. So this can basically just be a confirmation for you that there's no maintenance and no installation. Then we have our inflows, right? Year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these are future values. Okay, so just to make it easier for yourself so that you don't forget, initial investment is 2023 because that's the year that we're currently in. So our 2021 will be 2004, 2005, 6, 7, and 8. Now, this is just for you to be able to understand that from year 1 means it is next year. Year 2 is the year thereafter, right? Another thing we need to look out for in P, can you see that the inflows are the same every year? That means that there is this is an annuity, the same amount every year. And Q, you see they have different amounts. Now we need to go and look for our factors. Now our factors there's 2 tables, right? Depending on, there's actually 4 tables, but it depends on what you want to calculate. You remember with time value of money, they give you a figure. If they give you a future value, they're not expecting you to calculate the future value because it's given. They're expecting you to calculate the present value. If they give you a present value, they expect you to calculate a future value. Now, these are future values. So what they want you to do is to bring all these values to our current year, which is 2023, to see that if we invest in this project today, will it be profitable, right? So we're going to then convert these future values into present values. Then it says management requires a rate of return of 15%. Rate of return basically means the money that I'm going to get back, like my profit. So if your rate of return is 15, but your cost to obtain the funds is 20%, you must know you're paying too much. You'll never make a profit, right? Then the question continues. It says, calculate the following for each project. The net present value, payback period, profitability index. And then D says, based on the above calculations, meaning that you now need to then separate these calculations, which project would you choose and why? So as I go forward, I'm just going to write in my formulas. My NPV is my total present value minus my initial investment. My payback period is my initial investment minus my actual inflows. And my profitability index is my total present value divided by my initial investment. That's my formulas that I'm going to use, right? So now, how do I use my table? I go and check what's my period. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years at 15%. But now I need to go and see which table I need to use. They've given me future values, so automatically they want me to calculate present values, right? So if you look at the top of your table, right, they want you to calculate future values. So we can't use table A. Table B, they want us to calculate future values. Table C, they want us to calculate present values, and then it says interest factor for R1 discounted at a interest rate for N periods, right? And then table D says present value interest factor for a R1 annuity. Right, so now for our project P, we're going to use this table, and our project Q, we're going to use table C. Why? Because our project P has got annuities. It is 800 every single year, and our project Q has got different amounts. So what are we going to do? We're going to write our factors in, and then we know that we are done. How do you get your factor? Period. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know we're going to use these 5 periods. And then we go and look for the percentage. The rate of return is 15%, right? So where my period 1 and my 15% meet, that will be my first table. Let's just zoom in there. Okay, can you see? Period 1, 15%, here where they meet, this will be my first factor. So my first factor will be 0.870, second 1.626, third 2.283, fourth 2.855, and then it is 3.352. Right, so I've got all my factors in. Then I'm going to write in my factors for my project Q, which is different amounts. Okay, you see, does not say annuity. So then I do exactly the same. My period will be my first 5 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can put my page there, and then I go and look for 15%, which is there, and then every year I will take the factor. My first one is 0.870, 0.756, 0.658, 0.572, 0.497. Okay, these are all my factors. So I'm done with my table, and now the fun begins. Okay, so the first thing is I need to calculate my NPV. Let me just, okay, so the question says I need to do A, calculate my NPV, but what do you need in NPV? You need your total present value and you need your initial investment. So the initial investment, they've given it to us, so we're just going to write it here. The initial investment for P is 1.6, and for Q it's 1.6. Okay, so now we're going to do our total present value. We'll do it for P and we'll do it for Q as well. So year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. Okay, I'm just going to draw a line here so that we can just differentiate between the two. Okay, so for year 1, it is, or P, it is 800. Remember, there's no depreciation, so we're not going to add any. Okay, let me just write 800 here because I know they are 800 every year. Total present value. Okay, so my first factor is 0.870. My second 1.626. My third 2.283. My fourth 2.855, and my fifth is 3.352. Okay, now before I'm going to calculate my answers, let me just write my project P's, Q's information. It's 900, 800, 900, 800, 1 million, 900, 700. Now, because there's no depreciation, and remember, doesn't always mean that when there's no depreciation for one project, there's no depreciation for both. You need to make sure that there is no, the question doesn't state any a depreciation for both projects. Now my first factor is 0.870. My second is 0.756. My 8 is 0.658. 0.572 and 0.497. Okay, now I can calculate my total present value. Let's start with P. Okay, let's just do it like this. Let's start with P. P is 800 multiplied by 0.870 is equal to 696,000. 696,123. Okay, second one is 800 multiplied by 1.626. Remember, I'm multiplying it by my factor, 1300,800. Okay, then it is 800 multiplied by my factor, which is 2.283, which is 1,826,400. Okay, I continue. 800 multiplied by my factor, which is 2.855, gives me 2284123. And then the last one is 800 multiplied by my factor, which is 3.352, is 2681600, right? And then I add up all my amounts. That will give me my total present value. Okay, so I have 696. Gives me 8,788,800, right? Okay, then I'm going to do Q, do exactly what I did with P. I work out what is my present value per year. 900 multiplied by my factor gives me 783,123. Then it's 800 multiplied by my factor, 604,800 multiplied by my factor, 900 multiplied by my factor, 700 multiplied by my factor. Now I add up all these amounts to get my total present value. $500. Okay, so my total present value for project P is 8 million. My total present value for project Q is 2 million, right? So my NPV is what? Is equal to my initial investment, my total present value less my initial investment. Gives me my net present value. Okay, so it is 8,788,800 less 1.6. Yeah, it is 2,908,500 less 1.6. Right. Now remember, when you do your questions, you need to remember what is the requirements. Minus 188. Okay, so my net present value for P is 7.8 million, 1.3 million, right? So for us to accept or reject, NPV needs to be positive, right? So what I love doing, here I'm going to write accept, and here I'm going to write accept, A for accept. Why? Because remember, D wanted to know which project am I going to choose. But if I only use my NPV, I will choose project P because project P has a higher profitability, because project P is a higher positive than project Q. Okay, so now let's do this. I'm just going to make sure okay, so this would be our project P and this would be our project Q. Now we're going to do our payback period. Now payback period, when do we accept it? The one with the shortest payback period. How do we calculate it? We say that it is our initial investment minus our actual cash inflows. Right. So what is our initial investment? 1.6 for both, right? 1.6 for both. And then we're going to deduct our inflows. Now, our first inflow is 696 for project P. Now, this is in year 1. So, what is still left? Now, basically, how you can reason this is what it cost me. This is what the project is going to cost me. This is my inflows. This meaning this is the money I'm going to get in. How long will it take me to pay off the 1.6? So then you say the 1.6 minus 696. Right? So then when I've paid off, let's say I've used all my cash flow for year 1, I'm left with 904,000. Right? Then I go to my second cash flow. Now, if my money that I'm getting in is more than what I owe, I need to divide it and multiply it by 12. Because remember, of the money, let's say, yeah, okay, can you see? I'm going to receive 1.3 million. I only owe 900. So I'm going to divide the 900 by the 1.3 million. I'm going to multiply it by 12 to know for how many months must I pay to be able to pay off the 904,000, right? Because you're not going to pay off, because this is for a 12-month period. You're not going to pay the whole 12 months to pay off this amount. So that's why you're going to divide, okay, let's do it like this, divide it by the 1.3. You only do this when your income is now more than what you owe. Okay, so we're going to say 904 divided by our inflow multiplied by 12. So this means that we're only going to have to pay for 8 months to be able to pay off the 904. You only take the amount. Normally we don't round off. Just rather keep it to the first amount before the comma. Right? So the total payback period for project P is 1 year. Where did I get the 1 from? 1 year and 8 months. If the question does say round off, then it means you'll have to round off your months as well. Okay, now we're going to do project Q. Okay, so then we deduct our first inflow, which is 783. Let's see, and this is year 1. Let's see how much we're going to be left with to still pay. $817,000. Right? This is what we still owe. Now, is what we still owe more than what we're going to get in? Yes. So then we deduct the full amount. Because after we've deducted this amount, we're still going to owe on the project. Okay, so we left with 212,200. Okay, now this is what we owe. The amount that we're going to get in, is it more than what we owe? Yes. And this amount we got is for 12 months, but we're not going to pay this amount off in 12 months. So we want to calculate how many months it's going to take us to pay it off. So then we divide it by our next inflow, which is 658,000 times 12. This is to determine how many months it's going to take us to pay off the 212,000 divided by 6. It's going to take us, remember I said only use the amounts. Now because we're not busy with rounding, we're going to say 3 months. If the question says round off to 2 decimals, you will then make this 4 months. Okay, but now we're just going to use 3 months. Question said nothing. So what's our payback period? Our payback period is 2 years and 3 months. Okay, so are we going to accept? Yes, we're going to accept. Why? Because it's less than the 5-year period. Are we going to accept? Yes, we're going to accept. Why? Because it is less than the 5-year period. Remember, the comparison is not happening yet. We're not comparing it yet, but we are just seeing, will we accept or reject? Let's just do this. Okay, now we're going to do our profitability index, which is equal to our total present value divided by our initial investment. So we're going to say total present divided by initial investment. So what's our total present value? 71888. No, that's our NPV. Sorry, it's 878,800 divided by our initial investment, which is the 1.6. And here it is 2,908,500 divided by our 1.6. We accept when it is greater than 1. So we say 878,800 divided by 1.6. This is 5.4, right? Remember, we are not rounding off. If we were going to round off, it would have been 5.5. Okay. Then the other one is 2,908,500 divided by 1.8. Right, so we're actually going to accept and we're going to accept, right? Because both of them is greater than 1. But now we need to choose 1. Okay, so this is our A, this is our B, this is our C. Now D, they want us to choose, right? We need to say which project we're going to choose and why. So we're going to choose project P. Why? Because its NPV is positive, even though Q is also positive, but it's a greater positive, right, than Q. Payback period is shorter than that of Q, and its PI is much higher than that of Q. Okay, so we're going to say D is, we're going to choose project P. Why? Because the NPV is positive and higher than Q. Its payback period, now remember, you must write this out in full. Payback period is shorter than that of Q, and its PI is greater than 1 and higher than Q. And that is you now motivating why you are choosing project P. Okay, and that is capital budgeting. Thank you so much, and get ready for the second question.